You know what the cool thing is about these little mini shells right here? You just get more bang. Welcome back, Lead Slingers. Today is about the Mossberg 590S shotguns, but specifically the ones with the little S on them, because that means they take those little mini shells. All right, so the Mossberg 590S shotgun. So the Mossberg 590 series is nothing new, but these new S versions allow you to run these little guys, these short shells, so 1 inch and 3/4. Now these have advantages, one being you get a lot more of these in that magazine tube without having to put on either a factory or an aftermarket extension. They're also going to be much more controllable. So that's kind of like a 2-for-1. Say you're teaching your son or your daughter or somebody that's new and you don't want to, put that full 12 gauge in their shoulder and let it rip. You can start them out with something like this mini shell, and you're going to get several more of them to have some fun with out on the range, because I think shotguns put a smile on most of our faces. But it's also going to still be a very viable load, even though they're smaller, whether you're doing some hunting for game out there and for home protection. As you can see here, I did get the full size right here, so that's going to be the 18-inch. I borrowed my buddy's 20-inch version, and I just had to play around with the Shockwave as well because it's just so short, and who doesn't love that sound when it comes to a shotgun? So I had a control group of 3 for all of the testing that I did on the 590S. Let's go ahead and tackle the performance and reliability, because that's really where the rubber meets the road when it comes to a good, solid pump shotgun. Now, I ran these things until they literally got too hot to handle out on the range, because I just wanted to see, even though it's a very well-proven design, if something would come up, especially with those shorter shells. Just running the things as fast as possible, loading it and getting them super hot. But being that these are pump shotguns, it's pretty rare to see a failure on these things unless you've just worn them out. But I did run all kinds of different loads, from game shot to buckshot to different club loads, all kinds of stuff in the 1 3/4, all the way through the shell development that these things can take, because they'll go from 1 3/4 up to the 3-inch versions. And I ran all those variations because I wanted to see if anything was going to have an issue in there, but none did. They all fed reliably unless I short stroked it. So that is something that happened to me a couple times out there, because my shotgun training has not been a lot lately. I do have to say, every time I go out there and run shotguns, it just puts a big smile on my face, and I have an absolute ton of fun. And I always tell myself I need to do it more, but then I just get caught up in everything else. So needless to say, all 3, from the 20 to the 18 to that little Shockwave, performed 100% reliable, unless I just couldn't get the mechanical mechanism right. Because as I've said before, you have to run shotguns or they will run you. When it comes to the feel of them out there, I didn't notice a big difference between the 18 and the 20. You get a couple of more shells in that longer version, but obviously there was a big difference in how the Shockwave felt, because it's much, much smaller. You don't have a stock. You've got your little dongle. You've got a little handle here, although I sometimes use it, sometimes didn't. But I will say it really did come alive with those shorter shells, since they were so much more controllable. It was much more fun and much more enjoyable to use those shorter shells. And again, they're still a very viable option, because when you're thinking about truck gun, this is actually pretty cool. And of course, since those short shells are less power, you can do some cool guy one-handed stuff with your Shockwave. Should you choose, just please remember, always be safe. So after putting several hundred shells through the 18, the 20-inch, and that Shockwave, they all ran 100% reliably on all of the shells that I tested. I will say though, it seemed to be that at the end of the day, the action smoothed out a ton. Now that has a lot to do with the fact that you are running this pump along the magazine tube, so things are going to smooth out, the coating wear, and then all of the mechanical action in here is kind of going to deburr itself and smooth out, which is pretty normal for any pistol or any other mechanical device. So even though these are pretty precision made things, there's still going to be things that will clean themselves up over time. So after the several hundred rounds, several hundred shells, I don't exactly know how many, I had a stack of boxes and a big trash bag full of shells. They seem to function much more smoothly, especially after a little bit of lubrication. If you all like seeing videos like this and getting unbiased information on things you might be interested in or you find value in them or humor in these videos, consider subscribing. That's going to do a couple things. One, it's going to make sure that you don't miss any of the videos when they come out, especially if you hit that little bell icon down there. Also, it's going to trigger YouTube to push this video to a broader audience of people, some of which may never have seen 2A or gun content before, which might help win some of those people over, which kind of helps us all in the end. And also, if you're interested in anything you saw here today, I will leave a build list down below so you can check these things out for yourself. So one of my favorite things about the Mossberg 590S series of shotguns, the first thing is going to be that top mounted safety selector right there. So that is so much easier to manipulate. And it's one of my favorite things about Mossberg in general, rather than having a crossbolt style safety down here on the trigger guard. So it's just easy. You know, you can ambidextrous, left-handed, right-handed, you can get to it and work that thing. It's smooth and it just makes for a much easier experience out on the range with a shotgun, because they are definitely vastly different from pistols and rifles that most of us probably use far more often than a 12 gauge or any other style of shotgun out there. The Mossberg company is still family owned, which is very cool in the modern era. And I've owned a ton of different 500, 590, 930 series shotguns, but specifically, I have never seen or had one of their 590s fail me at any point in time. And since the 590 series has been out so long and it's so well proven, there are a ton of accessories, whether from Mossberg direct or from the aftermarket. So you can pretty much get anything you want, from new stocks, new pumps. You can get different clamps for the fore end, you can get different sights, you can get rails. And of course, this one is cool because it's optic ready right there. Now, I know some of you out there in the spec army just have to see every little detail the manufacturer provides. So how about a little synthwave this time to a spec sheet? All right, so make sure you let me know in the comments down below what you want to hear to the next spec sheet. So what are my final thoughts here on the Mossberg 590S shotgun? I think they are outstanding. I'm a huge fan of the Mossberg 590 series as a whole. Like I said, they have never failed me, and they have just been proven durable and reliable. And since they are the S version, you can get a lot more shells in there. That is definitely very cool, because they did have to make some changes. So the elevator in there was changed, the bolt slide was changed, and then there's a absorbing kind of bumper in there on the bolt system. So all of that had to be modified so you could use everything from the 1 3/4 all the way through the 3-inch shells in there. And since you get more of those shells and they are lower powered, that just means more fun on the range and less loading on the range. When it comes to the price on these, that cash money American, depending on which model you want, I saw most of them between $500 and $600. Once you start getting into some of the cooler ones, obviously it's going to be more expensive. And I know personally, I'm definitely going to get that 20-inch 9-shot retro grade one. Every time I see that thing, I want one. It's just a classic cool look with that wood stock and wood pump on it, and I can't wait to order me up one of those. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and watching some of those range flubs, because I have not been training with shotguns as much as I should have, even though after every video I say I am going to. Make sure you get subbed up down below. Keep doing it on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you all on the next one.